Okay, so just concluded a nice little package on electromagnetics, EM. Basically, I did some electromagnetics, and I did quantum electrodynamics. So that's quantum electrodynamics. So electrons, photons, currents, charges, fields. That's quantum level. And what I basically came up was like combining light with electrons. So combining photons with electrons, because we have photons, we have optical cables, which are communication, and we've got electrons, which are X-ray so X-rays and is also photons, electromagnetic wave. But the similarities is an electron and a photon behave like an electromagnetic wave. They both travel at the speed of light. They both have an electric field and a magnetic field. So you can kind of combine similarities between light, electromagnetic wave, and electron, particles, electrically charged, electromagnetic transmission. And basically the conclusion was you have like a fiber optic cable, but it's also an electric cable. So electric for power mixed with fiber optics for communication. So you have a communication cable mixed with a power cable, whatever that happens. Oh, and also for solar energy, get the solar, the UV rays, the photons that are hitting the metal and exciting electrons to go into the circuit. Get some of those electrons to feedback somehow to mix with more photons at higher frequencies and higher levels of electrons, whatever, powers and packets and quantum packets and whatever. So get some of those electrons to feedback with the photons and get a nice little mix to harness more concentrated electric current as a result, something like that. So photons and electrons mixing, quantum electrodynamics, mix light with the electrons, mix them both up. That's what I did for quantum scale. Now for high power, I did some electromagnetics. Is that all I did? That is about it. I did, and then I did some documents on like control systems, transistors, computer hardware, and stuff, crap like that. But what I basically did was EM and this electroquantum. Yeah. So then in terms of the EM, I did I did transistors. What the fuck did I do? Did the mathematics, the fields and waves and the Coulomb's law and the Laplace transforms and the phasor domains, imaginary numbers, trigonometry, so the math, waves, computers, antennas, communication systems, transmission lines, computers, electric machines and motors, so AC fields and AC power and three-phase motors and transmission and generation, and then your transistors and your control systems. That's all I talked about for electrical engineering. But I did some groundbreaking research on EM, and what that was basically I did 4 categories. I did wireless induction. All right. So creating electrically power and fields through induction, which is a coil creates a magnetic field into another coil a distance away. Magnetic capacitors, so harnessing the power of magnetic fields. Storable electricity or conservation of electricity, managing supply and demand. And if you basically want to just store it, you can use electricity, convert it into chemical power in the form of hydrogen fuel, clean energy, using electricity to split water particles. Hydrogen fuel, clean power. Now you got chemical energy, you used up the electrical energy, so you stored it into hydrogen. So those are wireless induction, magnetic capacitor, storing electricity, and Earth's magnetic and electric fields. And what I came to understand was these 4 elements come down into Tesla's theory of magnetic resonance and global energy transfer. Now, how does that work? How many pages? 1, 2, 3, 4. I wrote 4 pages of research on this. I'll tell you the short answer. Basically, you got the ground. Now, on the ground is everything we can build. We can build shit on the ground. We can't dig more than like 1 kilometer into the earth because the rock is super high pressure. And we can't go very high into space either, like 10 kilometers. And 200 kilometers above 200 to 500 is the ionosphere. That's where light starts bouncing around and you get these charged particles, which can harness electrical currents and do create electrical currents. And that's compared to the ground, it's at 250,000 volts. And so when lightning breaks down the air in storms, it's 250,000 volts from the ionosphere hitting the ground. Problem is we can't engineer anything up there 500, 200 kilometers above the ground. But it can support electrical currents, okay? Inside the Earth, 3,000 kilometers underneath the Earth is molten iron and metals. So metals flowing around in liquid form. And because they're metals, they create currents, and because a conductor is a sea of electrons in a metal. So if you have liquid metal, you're going to have a sea of electrons and electron flow, and you're going to have these currents, and that creates a magnetic field. So that's what creates the Earth's magnetic field. It's these metals that are melted, flowing around 3,000 kilometers below the Earth, and the magnetic field locally created inside those metals is super strong. It's basically a ultra powered AC generator. Okay, it's an AC generator, alternating current generator, creates a magnetic field that goes into space, and they're super weak. So by the time the magnetic field reaches the surface and goes into space, it's super weak to deal with. The ionosphere is super powerful, but super far away. And 3,000 kilometers we can't reach, even if we could. It's 6,000 degrees Celsius. Okay, what about harnessing those powers, the ionosphere and the molten core, like at a distance, and then getting them to work for us? So using their natural power somehow at a distance by how they interact with the earth and what we can pick up and stuff like that. The problem with that is they're very volatile. So you have storms in the ionosphere. The sun shines differently at different parts of the earth, and clouds, and I don't know. So very different charges up there, and very volatile currents that are always changing in the ground. So it's very hard to engineer what the fuck is happening up there and down there on a ground level. What Tesla thought of was a resonant frequency. Now this fucking sounds simple, but it took me like 2 hours, and before this I was researching it for months. It took me a long fucking time. I don't know if a physics major would understand it, but it took me a long fucking time to understand this resonance phenomenon, which is why no one's ever been able to build upon Tesla's theories. But I have. It's now this ionosphere and this molten core containing the entire globe, the atmosphere and in the core, create like a bubble, like an encapsulating shell that contain natural frequencies that can support resonance, which is a magnetic field. So if we were to have a transmitter and send a resonant million volt field in the earth would oscillate, and the field would not escape into space because it would be captured by the ionosphere. So the entire earth would be resonating at this frequency. Now you may say the earth already resonates at a frequency. It's true, and you got a lot of noise and shit like that, and leakage, but those are much lower. Those are like days, months, and years. Resonant transmission of power happens at higher frequencies, kilohertz, and you can go even higher, megahertz, like a radio wave, megahertz. But you gotta pick one that's able to be supported by the ionosphere and the core. So you gotta pick a resonant frequency that's able to be supported at the top and the bottom, because if it's messed up, it's gonna escape into space, it's gonna be lossy, it's gonna have noise, it's not gonna be efficient. So there's engineering difficulties. Now, what is resonance? It's not just a transmitter. When you have a transmitter and a receiver, they are connected by physics if they operate at a resonant frequency. So it's like if you have a high-pitched sound and it breaks two wine glasses. The wine glasses are the receivers of the resonant signal, and the sound was the resonant transmission. So you can have many receivers from one transmitter. However, they are all connected by physics, which means you can't just have a receiver and you can't just have a transmitter. If you set up a receiver and a transmitter together and you turn them on, well, you don't turn on the receiver, you turn on the transmitter, but you have a receiver, and they're both tuned to the same frequency, which means they have the same capacitors and coils, because it's magnetic and electric. So you will get this oscillation, and it's safe. It's not, because it's not a beam and it's not a wave. It's not a radio wave. So it's not a directed signal. This is where it gets interesting. It's not a directed signal. It's not like a sound wave. It's not even an electromagnetic wave or a radio wave. The transmitter is not transmitting a radio wave to the receiver. It's not transmitting an electromagnetic wave. It's not transmitting a beam. The transmitter and the receiver, or if you have 100 transmitters and 1,000 receivers, together they conserve energy. So as much energy is powered by the transmitters will be received by the receivers. So together they conserve energy, and they oscillate together at the same frequency. And because it's resonant, it's able to sustain that power, which means it builds upon itself. It's like feedback. It's in harmony. It's in harmony. So it goes back and forth and sustains great power. And the mechanism in which that oscillating field of power transfer magnetically is happening is the Earth molten core and the ionosphere. That's capturing that resonance into this capsule. And so the Earth and the ionosphere are vibrating at a magnetic field between the transmitters and the receivers. And all you got to do is plug in more receivers, plug in more transmitters, all tuned to the same resonant frequency, which is just a coil and a capacitor, an inductor and a capacitor. And if it's a transmitter, you need the power source. And if it's a receiver, you need the load. And so that's how it would be in balance. And you can transmit power magnetically through physics anywhere across the globe. And the transmitter would be plugged into a generator that's like a 1,000,000 volt generator, but you would have hundreds of them, so they would be all in the same resonant frequency, adding to the same power supply, and you just build these thousands of transmitters across the globe where you need them. And the engineering problems are like picking frequencies that can be supported by the ionosphere and the core, not having losses and sustaining power and efficiency, not having any of it escape. It escapes to the earth into heat and escapes radiation into the atmosphere, and so like not having it lossy, not having it interfere if it's going to interfere with local high powered transmission grids and communication systems. It's relatively more safe because once the transmitter is just local, it's just like after like 10 meters, all those crazy millions of volts die down, and that resonance lasts for a long time. So it's just local, but that resonance can mess up high power grids and communication fields, and so you got to pick these frequencies and these efficient powers and losses and the effects on the atmosphere and the heat and the earth. And you got to also track the balance, because if someone fucks up one of the transmitters, fucks up one of the receivers, the resonant frequency is messed up. and you will have noise and crappy signals. So you got to have all these transmitters perfectly engineered to be in sync at the same frequency and powers, and receivers to be correctly engineered to be at the sync in the same frequencies, and to correctly balance the load with the power. And that would be a global effort of engineering. In essence, that is Tesla's wireless power, completely theorized. And I wrote it all down, wrote 4 pages of that, and then I wrote 4 pages of the earlier electromagnetics, how I came to that point. So 8 pages on this document of electromagnetics. That's what I did, bro. That's what I did, bro. So that's what it is. At least we have the science. They say we couldn't work on Tesla stuff because we didn't have the science. We lost his notebooks and stuff like that. Now I wrote it down, so at least we have the notebooks. And other stuff he did contribute was that radio wireless communications, like remote control, communication signals, radio wireless. So fields and waves, communication systems, electromagnetic waves, and AC technology, alternating current. So alternating current coming out of the generator, and then alternating current as a generator, and transformers, and electric motors. So electric motors that are AC powered. It was his biggest discovery was this AC technology, 3-phase electric motors, electric generators, electric transmission systems, and everything AC. So, because back then everything was DC. DC is like a static voltage level, cannot be used in a capacitor. Pretty useless in an inductor. You got AC, got your capacitors, got your inductors, got your 3-phase motors, got your induction, got your generation, got your force, got your motors, got your alternating currents, got your frequencies, got your powers. So he did that AC stuff, he did the fields and waves, communication signals. Yeah, and now I just topped it off, added resonance, which was really hard to figure out. Let me see, anything else? No. And then I did my other than that, I got my medicine, so my viruses and diseases and neural networks. I got that. And then I got the environment, some entropy and astrophysics and gravity and theory of everything, particles and forces. And anything else? That's it. That's everything. So that's since I graduated in 2020. That's 6 years. And Tesla did the Niagara Falls generator, wireless lighting, AC polyphase systems, X-rays. Oh, he did some X-rays as well. Radio communication. And he also did that around the same age as me. 30s. In his 30s. And 40s and 50s. He did this wireless power transfer stuff, which is what I added. Don't know what else to add. I did as much as I could for electromagnetics and electrical engineering, and as much as I could for biology. I'll stay up to date when new technologies are discovered. Have the AI, have the research, have the news, have the information. But and then I got my little stocks and finances and business ideas and my writing and my music. Not a bad time, not a bad time. All since I graduated 2020. 6 years. Keep it real. Do you? Who be? I me. Kick it.